Welcome to Women Kicking Glass, the only radio show on OC Talk Radio dedicated to empowering women to be the best leaders they can be in any endeavor they choose. Patty Grimm is our host and interviews top women in a variety of fields to help women grow, learn, and lean in together. Patty has over 25 years of experience in primarily male-dominated fields in senior-level management positions. Patty is the owner of Advantage Training Limited, an organizational leadership team training company. She recently released her new book for women called Quiet Women Never Changed History. Be strong, stand out, and stand up. With the subtitle, Let's Go Kick Some Glass.
And that's exactly what we're going to do. We got some real glass kickers in the room today here.
I promise not to say that other word today.
I don't let you ever say it again. Since you fumbled the ball, to use a football analogy here.
So
it didn't come out glass the one day she said it.
Yeah,
right.
you can make your imagination go wild on that one. So I'm here with the incredible Susan Howington. She's a sought-after expert in executive career transition field, applying her practical knowledge and visionary skills as a consultant, coach, and author in the industry to really make a difference and help women and all people basically be able to find the right career for themselves. She is CEO and founder of Power Connections Career Services, and she utilizes her highly respected reputation and amazing experience as a senior vice president and managing director of a large outplacement firm to help companies transition their employees during the outplacement phase. And I've been on the both sides of that one.
Yes.
She's really very recognized in Orange County. She's been featured in Orange County Metro Magazine as one of the 15 women in Orange County who inspires others. She's been featured in the Orange County Register, the LA Times, on a variety of shows, online publications like ABC7, New York, CBS, Chicago, Fox News, Career Builders, etc. And she's got a great book that I would encourage everybody to read, not just executives, but it's about how smart people sabotage their job search, 10 mistakes executives make and how to fix them. And so today we're going to talk about branding and personal branding and why that's so important in your career and job searches. But let's start out with just telling a little bit about you and your background. How did you get to where you are today?
Sure. Thank you. First of all, Patty, thank you so much for having me on your show.
Oh.
I'm excited to be here. I'm thrilled to be having this conversation with you. It's
Awesome.
Great.
Awesome.
To
Well,
be
great.
Here. Yeah. I'm a very fortunate person in that I think I knew what I wanted to do most of my life.
Wow.
I grew up wanting to help people.
Mm-hmm.
And not just help them in a general way, but in helping people move from one position of maybe disadvantage to a positive position. Additionally, I have always had a very strong interest in business. And it's been with me most of my life. When I was 13, I had visions of being a CEO of a company. I was trying to figure out how to make money. I've always tried to figure out how to make money and build a business. So I've been able to really marriage my desire to help people and my strong interest in business together, and I couldn't be in a sweeter spot in my life with my company, Power Connections, and being in the outplacement business.
Wow, that's incredible. You were able to figure that out at 13. At 13, I was still playing softball and tennis and trying to figure out if I wanted to play, tennis the rest of my life. I wasn't thinking about a career.
I've always thought about being in business.
Yeah.
It's just part of who I am.
Yeah, I started out in actually education and teaching. I was going to be a teacher to make a difference. And when I got laid off, because they passed a law in California which eliminated basically most of the taxes, all teachers got laid off, I fell into banking. And I fell into a job, but I found a career, and I found I loved business.
Sure.
It was just one of those things. It was like, wow, I never thought I'd be here.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd work for Microsoft, right? Fell into that career and was there for 15 years and absolutely loved it.
Right.
We're going to talk a lot today about branding and personal branding. So when you talk about branding, why is that so important for women?
Well, branding is, it's sort of a funny, can be kind of a squishy topic, but it's a real deal, and it is the thing that we can do as professionals that differentiates ourselves from other people, that can really distinguish ourselves and set us apart from people and people that do what we do. I like to use the acronym or the word RISE to describe what I feel is exciting about branding. And RISE stands for remarkable, irreplaceable, significant, and empowerment. I truly believe that when you have figured out your brand, it is the most empowering thing that you can do for yourself professionally. It's the compass for you that is always pointing you to the true north, helping you with your decisions about your career, and setting you apart as you go along.
I love that. I want to hear the RISE thing again, because that is outstanding. RISE stands for
remarkable, irreplaceable, significant, and empowering.
Wow, that's incredible. I remember I went to a career workshop at one point in time, and they talked about You Incorporated. You know, companies have brands, countries have brands or visions or whatever. They talked about having You Incorporated as your brand, and I love that RISE. That's absolutely outstanding.
Yeah. Coco Chanel has been quoted to say that in order to be different, you must be... in order to be irreplaceable, you must be different. So that's the... interesting thing about branding is that a lot of people push back on committing to a brand because they don't want to seem different. And it's unfortunate because having a difference about you is just so incredibly important.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I saw a quote today. I was driving here to get to the show, and I saw a quote that says, "Be yourself, everybody else is taken."
Right.
And it was so new to see that bumper sticker on a car in front of me as I'm coming to have this interview with you was sort of like, wow, that's pretty amazing.
How apropos.
How absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. And it's interesting. Even in your book, I was reading one of the chapters. It's like, networking, you build a network that looks just like us. And so you want to be remarkable, memorable, and different. So how can people do that?
Well, there's a lot of... self-introspection that must go on, and I talk a lot with our own clients. In fact, in our outplacement program, Patty, we put a lot of time and energy in helping people understand their brand. So the thing that people must do is they must give it thought, and for whatever reason, it's hard to do that for people to take the time, and I call this taking a perspective break. Take a perspective break. Really look at yourself. What it is that you do that adds value in a company. What it is that, what are the traits that have followed you your life? What are the compliments that you've most appreciated that you've received from people? There's lots of things that we can ask ourselves that will eventually get us to that theme of the brand. So it's not an easy conversation. It takes some effort, takes some being honest with ourselves, but one can find their brand, and we help people do that every day.
And you said what people compliment you for. I also think about things sometimes maybe as a child growing up, maybe you were criticized for. I was criticized for always being different. My mom would say, why can't you be like all the other girls and play with dolls versus being in a tree and hanging out with all the guys? My whole life, I was the Peppermint Patty on the softball team. I was always the person that was out there.
Right.
So, and think about the things that made you different.
Of course. I always say that I believe people's brands have been with them all their lives, or most of their lives.
Yeah.
It's part of you. It's the old, you take yourself with you wherever you go. Your brand is who you are. It's part of your DNA, and you should know it.
Yeah, yeah. I frequently, because my book obviously is all about women kicking glass and the power color red. So if I'm in a public event, I'm almost always wearing red. And if I don't, somebody says, "Why aren't you wearing red today?" I
have noticed that about you. In fact, Patty, I think you have a wonderful brand that you've established for yourself. And if I may, I love the cover of your book with that red heel and the cracking of the glass. And you have done such an exceptional job of incorporating that redness and even the red heels. I oftentimes see you wearing red heels. So I do have a question for you. How many pairs of red heels do you have?
I only have a couple, and the thing is, I don't have them on today, but I do have on a red sweater.
Yes, I noticed.
And you notice my logo up here.
And your red lipstick.
And my red lipstick.
All works.
All works. And I have the red heels on the last 2 days at different events, and I could not put my feet in them today. I usually have a pair of comfortable shoes I wear, and then if I'm either on stage or I'm going to be presenting, I always put on the red high heels.
Well, keep wearing them because I'll be very disappointed to not see you wear those red heels.
So let's talk about what makes a great brand.
Yeah, a great brand is comprised of a couple of really important things. Well, more than a couple. It is really a 360 view of someone, but it starts with. I tell people that your brand is communicated through everything about you, and those are two words. Everything. Yes, from the way that you walk, the way you talk, the way you show up in a room, the way you look, the way you conduct yourself in business. But if we take that 360 view and then we really dig deep, a brand is also an experience that people has about you. And Patty, I'm going to take you again as an example. Before I knew you, I experienced you visually with your red shoes and your red lipstick and red sweater.
Right.
I knew you as an author. I've seen you present at Executive Next Practices. I've seen you lead and facilitate groups of hundreds of people, which built a sense of credibility that I had for you as an individual and as a woman in business. And so I experienced you. So branding is also an experiential thing for people, that not only do you look the part, you're talking the part, but what I get from you, what I'm experiencing from you supports it.
Well, thank you. That's an amazing compliment. Thank you. I think
you
just made my day.
Well, good.
So what do you do with some women, or even some men, but also some women? What do you do with the woman who has maybe been playing so many roles for so long, they've lost sense of who they are, and maybe they're very kind of introverted and inward, and they're trying to blend in. They're maybe always, at the back of the crowd. Or how do you help them find their brand that's going to get them a job?
The first thing is, again, we have a lot of questions to ask people that will help them become more self-actualized. But, Patty, the important thing for someone like that is to establish a sense of trust between them, the woman who's looking to find her way, and her career coach, that she can be honest and just allow herself to be free about what does she really love to do, what would her ideal day and job look like, what are the skills that she has, what are the skills that she doesn't have, and create a plan of action, because that plan of action provides a sense of control and purpose.
Great. I met with a young woman the other day that it was very interesting, because she's like, I don't do anything well. I said, I'm just, and she used that word, I'm just.
Oh, dear.
I was only, and I really want to tell women and young girls out there to get those two words out of your language. Get that, I'm just a blank, I am only a blank, and really start to find what is it about you that makes you different and unique.
I'm so sorry to hear those words as well.
I'm going to send her this interview.
Please do. Please do.
And I may refer her to you. So,
sure.
And so, in today's world where everybody is trying to blend in and be like everybody else, this is so important. What are some tips you have for people maybe to establish their brand?
One of the keys to an effective brand is to, as an exercise, look at how products and services are branded. Let's take the pharmaceutical industry.
And all those ads?
All those ads. And they go on for, it seems like, 2 minutes, right?
Right.
But we see, I'll just, in general, we see a couple who are sitting on a couch, maybe wringing their hands over some pain or, illness or whatever. The pharmaceutical company introduces itself and the drug. Then we see these people transformed into a happier face, and then ultimately we see them frolicking in a field of flowers with the sky is blue, and the music behind it, and we're getting we see this picture of pain and suffering and sorrow, and then to complete happiness. So there's a message in this for all of us in our branding. If we can identify what we do for people or a business that will alleviate someone's pain and suffering in that company, we have found our brand.
Awesome.
So if I'm interviewing with you, Patty, and I know that there's a lot of missed deadlines in projects, and if you're in the marketing product rollout area, and I'm interviewing and I know that this is a symptom of some real disarray and lack of ability at the company, I can talk about my brand being someone who never misses a deadline, is always on time, things of that nature, without saying, Patty, I know you always miss a deadline, but this is my brand. I never miss a deadline. Right. So, Patty, you're thinking, geez, that's the kind of person we need here.
Yeah. Yeah, and making yourself different. So one of the things in your book also I remember is the never forgetting about the importance of first impressions.
Yes.
So let's talk about that a little bit.
So our brand, if we want to be the boss, we have to look like the boss.
Yeah.
If we want to be the next person to be promoted in a department, we need to look like we're of that caliber of person. So we must never forget about how we look, the what's coming across by the way we dress.
Yeah.
It's just really important.
Yeah, in fact, I remember a mentor once told me that to take a look not at the people at the level you are, and not look at the people one level above, but maybe look at the people that are 2 levels above, and look at how they dress and how they conduct themselves in meetings and how they prepare themselves for a meeting. Like they're prepared before they go in there. They have some questions to ask. They've read the pre-work if there's pre-work. But really to look at that individual that maybe is 2 levels above.
Yes.
And see how they dress and how they talk.
Absolutely. And I have a little tip about that, if you don't mind. I want to share this. This is for the young woman who is trying to establish herself professionally. I would like to suggest that they not look on Pinterest for ideas on how to dress for their career. Pinterest is not thinking about a woman's professional interest when they're putting outfits together. So just a little thought.
That's a very interesting tip. In fact, one of the things that I want to talk about is that, Susan and I are involved in this group called Executive Next Practices here in Orange County, and we have regular forums on at least once a month, if not more, at UCI the Cove. It's a beautiful location. It's Executive Next Practices Institute in our forums. And we have an event coming up on November 2nd for women.
Yes.
You're going to be one of our panelists.
Yes.
We've got an amazing group of speakers. Last year, Jerry Rosen, who is CEO of Working Wardrobes, so it's a nonprofit organization that helps people not only dress for success for interviews, but deals on the inside as well, helps them do career and interviews. And so Jerry was on our panel last year, and what Jerry said, which is so true to what you just said, Jerry basically said, pay attention to how you look.
Yes.
If you're sitting here in jeans and a T-shirt, I'm not going to hire you. Right? It doesn't. It's just how you dress really matters, and dress according to who you are. And you're always dressed impeccably. Jerry's always dressed impeccably. But I thought that was so interesting that she brought that. That she actually brought that up in the.
I loved her straight talk about that because we need to be direct.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people just don't know. They don't know. They've never been given any guidance in their lives about how to develop their personal persona.
Yeah.
So I just want to put it out there. Pinterest is not the place. If you want to know how to dress professionally, look at the people that are your managers and superiors.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, it was funny. I when I lived in Asia, I hired a professional fashion person to come in to my home in Asia because I had moved over from the U.S. and lived in Asia for 3 years, and she was a British woman. And she was so funny because she would have you put on your own clothes, right?
Yes.
And she'd look at you and she wouldn't say, well, that really looks pretty bad. She'd say, honey, that's just not your best look.
That's great.
In a very British accent. And those were the things that went out of the closet and got donated to somebody else. But, pay attention to how you dress and how you show up, because I've heard that, first impressions are made in 3 to 5 seconds.
Oh, my gosh. And you can't change them. It takes a long time to change a first impression.
Yeah. Yeah, so very important. Think about your brand from the outside, but also from the inside.
Of course.
And how do you show up?
Yes.
So cool. We're going to take a commercial break in just a minute, but I do want to, before we do take the break, I want you to tell us the title of your book again. I've got it right here, but also how people can get in touch with you and where they can get your book. And then we're going to keep talking.
Great. My book is called How Smart People Sabotage Their Job Search, The 10 Mistakes Executives Make and How to Fix Them. It is available on Amazon, but I'm available by phone. My number is 949-285-9541. My email is susan@powerconnectionsinc.com.
Awesome. And I do want to remind people that we do have on November 2nd, in the morning from 8:30 to 11, we have an amazing event and lineup of speakers, including Susan as one of our panelists. It's our Executive Next Practices Institute session, and you really want to go to this event. We've got amazing speakers coming in, and we actually have a man on the panel. We have a man on the panel.
How did that happen?
He just shook in. He just snuck in under the wire. And if you're interested in the event, you can go to www.enp, that's E as in Edward, N as in Nancy, P as in Patty, Institute, .com to register for this absolutely fantastic event. So we'll take a quick career, and we're going to come back and keep talking about branding and impressions and what women can do to really make a difference in their lives.
Imagine what it would feel like to lose everything. Your job, your home, your family, your dignity. This has happened to thousands of the men, women, veterans, and young adults we serve at Working Wardrobes. What do we do to help? We provide career development services, life skills workshops, job skills training. We provide the perfect interview outfit, and we get clients placed in jobs. Call Working Wardrobes, 714-210-2460. Donate, volunteer, invest, hire.
When it comes to pioneers in their respective industries, we all know the Apples, Starbucks, and Trader Joe's of the world. In the realm of recruiting, Decision Toolbox is the industry's best-kept secret, with 90% of their business from referrals and repeat customers. For over 20 years, Decision Toolbox's U.S.-based team of recruiters, sourcers, professional writers, quality personnel, and tech support has perfected a Six Sigma approach to talent management. No matter the size of the project, Decision Toolbox delivers incredible results. A cost per hire less than half of what contingency firms charge, with the winning candidate presented in an average of 14 days, all with a 12-month candidate warranty. With results like that, Decision Toolbox won't be a secret for long. Visit us at www.dtoolbox.com for more information.
And now back to Patty and her guest.
Yeah, this is Patty with Susan Howington. We are talking about the power of personal branding and how that can help you in your career and in your life. I guess a couple questions I wanted to ask you. Can you have more than one brand?
You can, but you must be very careful about that. Because the reality is we can't be all things to all people. And I know that in working with particularly executives, they push back on being looked at as doing one thing, let's say, because they're very experienced. And I've often heard the term, I can just plug and play, just put me in any business, I can do the job. Well, the business community at large does not appreciate that sentiment. They really want to know, what do you do? What do you do?
What do you bring to the party?
Yeah, what do you bring? So I encourage people that they have to put their stake in the ground. You got to put a flag in the ground about something. So really look inward to see what is it that, when have you been at your best moment in business? What were the dynamics that were occurring? What's been your biggest victories? Where'd you hit the famous home run?
Right, the ball out of the park. Exactly.
Yeah, and tell a story around that. Because that's the conversation starter, Patty.
Right.
If you're trying to be all things to all people, people don't know what to do with that. They don't know what to do with that.
Yeah.
But if you say that you're the person that transforms businesses to take them to the next level, people will say, well, how did you do that? Well, tell me about a time when you did that. There's your conversation starter. And then if they like what they hear, they might say, well, we're not looking to transform our business. And by the way, I don't know any business that's not.
Not
right?
today.
Not today. But gosh, we certainly like what you said. You sound really smart. You've got obviously other talents. We could probably use someone like you. So we have to get narrow in our focus about branding.
Yeah. Now, what do you do in situations? Because you kind of never know when you're going to meet somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Like on the weekends, there's a lot of times on the weekends that my life revolves around football and going to my nieces and nephews' soccer or tennis tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
And there are times when I'm just literally in a baseball cap and very limited makeup. But, you never know when you're going to run into somebody at the soccer field.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you think about a brand when you're maybe in a casual environment? The CEO of the company you may want to work for might be at that soccer tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. So back to everything about you communicates your brand. I'd watch your behavior. I'd watch what's coming out of your mouth, right, at your kids' soccer games and whatnot. But you're on stage everywhere. When you are promoting yourself through job transition, you are always on stage. I mean, really, our brand is with us everywhere at all times. I mean, I believe that, and I live like that.
Yeah.
I mean, if I go to the grocery store, oh my God, the thought of running into somebody that I know at the grocery store, and if I'm wearing, sweatshirt and whatever and no makeup, the thought mortifies me. So I always try to, up my game a tiny bit there, you know.
What I found interesting is what you said about watch what you say and how you behave at these events. If you're the parent on the sidelines that's screaming at your kid or at the coach, people are looking at that.
Right.
And thinking, oh my gosh, I wonder if this is how they perform at work under pressure.
Yeah. Do you know, not that this was a great hiring strategy, but I once hired a woman that we ended up sitting next to at one of these concerts in the park. She was there. I didn't know her, but she coincidentally came and interviewed for a position that I had that next week, and we recognized each other. But I saw her with her family and her children, and we talked with them, and I thought, what a lovely family. I hired that woman because I saw how she behaved, and she had the qualifications. So, case in point.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know.
Wow, you never know. So, I would think it might be hard for people to find and stick with one brand. Is there any risk in sticking with a brand in any way?
Well, I think our brands can change somewhat through our professional life, but not drastically. Again, I think our brands are with us, our whole lives. And through our profession, we are known for being a certain way our whole profession. And so we need to look at ourselves and the legacy of what we leave behind at every company. And that, if we stick with that theme, you can come up with a general tagline that's not, you could come up with I'm the M&A guy if you wanted to. And I don't mean that specifically, but you know what I'm saying.
Right.
But in general, if you could come up with a term about business growth and transformation, that could include M&A and diversifying and things like that. So I would encourage a brand that is focused versus being too many things.
Yeah, it's interesting. In my two main corporate careers, one was in banking, and when I first was working in banking is when women were being told to dress like men.
Yes.
And so we had, and you probably remember these days.
Those days.
When there were 5 of us that all had a similar role across the state of California. We showed up at this big corporate meeting. We were all in navy blue blazers with a little white cotton button-down shirt like a man's Oxford shirt.
A string of pearls?
No. Well, I had a string of pearls, but we also had that little tie. Like a rose.
Yes.
We all had on the skirts and the high heels and shoes, and we looked at each other and we hysterically laughed.
Yeah, it was the uniform.
And there was, and this goes back quite a ways before the internet was going on. And I was working downtown LA on the 60-story First Interstate Bank building, and our VP of HR named Glenna showed up in a beautiful silk dress. Now, there was no internet, and that phone call went from the 60th floor to the first floor of thousands of employees within seconds.
Is that right?
Of that Glenna wore a dress.
Wow.
A nice, beautiful dress. And so people's dress sort of started to change. But I always my entire career, even when in consulting at a manufacturing plant, I still tried to dress appropriately.
Yes. I
still tried to dress appropriately. And I remember one time working at the bank, we were working in sort of a non-customer contact area, and this HR decided that we were going to have casual Fridays. Mm-hmm. And here's something I found interesting. My friend Shelley and I, we were both VPs at the bank. She's still working in a bank here locally. And it was a casual Friday, and we were in maybe something like a nice pair of fancy jeans. We both had blazers on and still looked nice. But I looked at our behavior. Mm-hmm. And instead of sitting up like this, the two of us were kind of sitting, we were sitting back in the chair, and our casual dress led to more casual behavior. Mm-hmm. Have you seen that happen?
Yes. And I've heard stories of that as well. I want to make a point that even Casual Fridays, of course, was what led to Casual Everyday.
Yes, right.
But I want to make a point that even when we dress casually, it can still support our brand.
Right.
Right. And I am a very creative person. In my book, I talk about how if I could, I'd dress like a rock star every day. I love that whole look. I think one day
leather jacket.
I love it. Oh my God, I love it. And I think one time in one of my past lives, I was a gypsy because I love jewelry as well. I'd wear it. I'd be smothered in it, right? But I can't dress like that if I want to be taken seriously in the business world, and I accept that.
Right.
But I can still add a little bit of, bling, a little bit of creativity. I've got my bracelets on, and I know I can still do this, and it makes me happy, but it's still acceptable, and people I think enjoy it when they meet with me, and it fits. It fits my brand.
Yeah. Even when I worked at Microsoft, which obviously there were times I had to say to a developer, before you go talk to this customer, could you please put on shoes? I literally had executives that I would go into Microsoft Studios, because I did a lot of video work and studio work there, and I'd have to have them, put on. I actually had spare shirts.
Is that right?
And jackets and things, and I'd comb their hair and say, tuck your shirt in. You're going to go talk to a president of a country. But I even there, I dressed professionally. I wore usually a dress or a pants outfit that matched 99% of the time, and if I ever showed up in jeans, I always had a blazer or something on, professional looking. Yeah. And people kind of looked at me kind of odd when I did show up occasionally in jeans.
Well, I think another way to look at this is we show respect for people when we dress up.
Oh,
right?
I like that.
So we may not feel like it, and we might think to ourselves, I'm still a smart, capable person, whether I show up in jeans or wool slacks or, whatever it is. But we should do it out of respect for the person that we're meeting with.
Yeah.
It's representing that we respect that encounter. So I like to look at it that way, too.
Yeah. So what do you say to people that have a couple of brands that may be in conflict? How do you coach them? I'm thinking of people that, I'm thinking of the millennial women right now.
Yes.
And somehow some of them may dress in things at work that maybe belong more after hours, or they're just dressed sort of inappropriately.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would hope that sometime in their life they will have a coach or mentor who will, with kindness, help them understand that the way they're dressed is actually sabotaging their success. It's holding them back.
Right.
So we could all just hope for that kind of person to enter our lives.
Right.
But on that note, a smart woman who is trying to take control of their career as a methodology to that should find a mentor.
Yeah.
Should ask someone to coach them and give them honest feedback and give them ideas and just tell them the lay of the land.
Yeah, and I think going back to what you said earlier, the brand is everything. Mm-hmm. It's how you stand, how you walk, how you talk, how you dress, and I strongly believe it's actually the last principle of the 5 principles in my book about being empowered women leaders, about one paying it forward. So one is be a mentor and find a mentor. Mm-hmm. I had a mentor one time that she really helped me in many, many ways and said, in meetings, for example, you tend to say too much. Mm-hmm. So maybe listen to what other people say.
That is great feedback.
Listen to what people say and then maybe interject your comment. Mm-hmm. Or I remember one time after, and this is a very interesting one in terms of brand, after the meeting, you know how after a meeting there's all these coffee cups laying around mm-hmm. and people are kind of walking away and they're leaving their cups, and I started to pick up the coffee cups. Mm-hmm. And here's my mentor on the far side of the room who literally almost yells, "Put the cups down." Mm-hmm. And I kind of looked at her and was sort of shocked, and she yelled, "Put the cups down."
Right.
She said, when at the end of the meeting, if you're picking up the cups, you look like an admin, mm-hmm. not an executive. Mm-hmm. And you talk about frank, honest feedback.
Yeah. Well, I love the feedback that this person got about talking too much. Mm-hmm. If we look at the difference in the way that men and women communicate, men don't appreciate someone who talks too much.
Long stories.
Yeah, they want the answer to the question first, and if they want the background, they're going to ask you for it.
Yeah.
And that is a factor that women have to be aware of mm-hmm. if they want to be successful in business, because like it or not, most of the key executives are men. Mm-hmm. Like it or not, okay? Right. So just deal with it and modify one's behavior so that you are heard, because that's what's going to help you. And if you are talking too much, if you're overly expressive, if you're overly emotional, you're going to get shut down.
Yeah. I heard somebody say, be brief, be bold, be gone.
Be seated. Yeah. Yeah, I know that quote. Yes, be seated. Yeah.
Great. Mm-hmm. Great. So what else, when you think about, there's some things in your book that I love, and I know this is about, how smart people sabotage their job mm-hmm. careers, 10 mm-hmm. mistakes people make. What are some mistakes maybe that women make that might sabotage their career, whether it's related to their brand, which I think is a piece of that, but mm-hmm. but what about other things that women might do that sabotages their career?
Because women tend to be more emotional. I mean, we just are. That's how we're made. I would say we really need to be careful about displaying emotion in the business world. And again, Patty, a lot of women don't like to hear that, but it's just life. So if you're feeling pressured because you've had to get up early, you had to feed your children, you had to take them to daycare, you had to drop them off at school, you've got to set yourself straight in the car before you walk in, because I also have a chapter in there that says the interview starts in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Well, your brand also starts in the parking lot. When you're getting out of your car, I want you to set those shoulders back. I want you to take the look of frustration or whatever it is, anger or whatever you're feeling, I want you to set that aside and look forward, walk forward with confidence, and enter the building, because you're mm-hmm. now in the building. Your brand is in the building. Yeah. And it's important. We're on stage. Yeah. All the world is a stage.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of thinking about preparing yourself in the car to walk in that mm-hmm. door with confidence. I was also coaching a younger woman recently, and she happens to be of Asian descent, and she worked for an Asian company, and her opening line to everybody, including probably job interviews, was, well, I'm an Asian woman, work for an Asian company, and I never got a fair deal. And everything about her behavior, everything kind of resonated that, and I'm a tough coach. I know you're a tough coach too, mm-hmm. and sometimes I literally said to her, the chip on your shoulder is so big, I will never hear what you say, because mm-hmm. that is your opening to everything, mm-hmm. And that you need to put that aside. And so she finally landed a great job. I'm really thrilled for her, mm-hmm. but putting that aside and being able to have somebody that actually looks at you and says, do you realize what you're saying or what you're doing is sabotaging you?
Yes, yes. I think people can also learn by observing other people. And I know earlier in my career, I used to go to a lot of association meetings and lunches and breakfasts. Right. And because of the company that I worked with, I was sent to these meetings where a lot of CEOs and CFOs and senior executives would go and be associated with each other. And I used to sit there and I'd watch them at the table. And, Patty, highly intelligent people, highly successful people, generally are not wearing that on their sleeve and trying to prove it with other people. They're already there, right? So I remember distinctly an experience where I had asked a question of a CEO that was sitting next to me, and I remember how he looked at me and he listened and he answered my question and then asked me a question about why I asked the question. Anyway, he was interested in me.
Yeah.
He took an interest in what I had to say. And so if we watch the behaviors of successful people, we can learn.
Yeah.
I learned a lot about table manners. I mean, my parents taught us well, but still, in a business setting, I learned a lot because I watched people.
Yeah.
So I would encourage women to watch people, other women and men that are successful. Watch their behaviors. We can learn a lot from other people.
And think about your brand as being something unique. So what you want to do is, I've advised people, is you want to watch people and what they do that you admire, and figure out how you can help that fit your style.
Yeah.
But I've seen it happen too often where you have an executive that maybe is trying to be the rah-rah woman or man that's trying to be the rah-rah cheerleader kind of leader, and it's not their style.
Yeah.
And so it comes across as disingenuous, and that you've got to be yourself. You know, be like the quote I saw on the car: "Be yourself. Everybody else is taken."
Yes.
But find out how you incorporate that into your brand.
I have kind of an interesting question that I'll ask people, and that is, if you could be anyone, dead or alive, who would you be? And it's really interesting to hear what people say. And what I've found, it's not always the case, but some people will identify a key figure in history or someone alive or someone prevalent today, and the characteristics that they describe, I could actually say to them, John, you have those characteristics. Do you know that?
Yeah.
That there are things about that person that are very similar to what you do. So we tend to gravitate towards, we're attracted to the people that are like ourselves. And so what we can do is look at those people and extrapolate and pull out what are the attributes and characteristics that they have that created that strong persona and brand that they have that we could take on.
Well, that's interesting, because that would be a very interesting interview question. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's something that you use when you're talking to people about their brand. Tell me,
It is. In an interview.
An incredible question.
I've heard in an interview, actually not an interview, but I've heard the question asked, if you were sitting on an airplane for 4 hours cross country, who would you most like to sit next to? And it can't be Jesus Christ, and it can't be, certain people, right? But, let's be real. Real people here that living and breathing, who would it be? And it's kind of fun to hear what people come up with. And what would they talk to them about?
Yeah. Wow. Amazing.
I always said Johnny Depp, by the way, so...
Because he's kind of got that out there style. That is your closet rocker, right?
Yeah.
You're a closet rocker.
I know. What does that say about me?
But you still think about your brand.
Oh, yes.
And like you said, you keep a little thing unique or something different that's a little bit different than the average person that's out there. So, if people want to create their own brand, where do they start?
They start by having real conversations with themselves. Asking themselves, what do I do best? What value do I bring?
And what do I love doing?
What do I love doing? And usually what we do best is what we love doing, right?
Yeah.
They go hand in hand. And how can what I love to do take away pain and support people in business?
Right. I always tell people to think about, what do you find yourself doing when nobody's watching?
Yeah. Well, we always ask, what are you doing on your best day? What's your best day?
Yeah.
What's your ideal day? And I love it when I can get people to talk about, what does it look like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like? Yes. What are you wearing? What does your office look like? Because it starts to create this, a vivid dream in people, and it's not it isn't really a dream. It's something that could be a reality for most people.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to help people find their best, find them their best self and their best job.
Right.
That's why, like, the first principle in my book is about be strong and know what your strengths are. And so I tell people to take a piece of paper and write down for a week. Every time you do something that makes you feel strong, put that in your strength column.
It's great.
Every time you do something that drains you, put that in your downside column.
Love it.
And then figure out how you create a life and career around those strengths. And
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that exercise when I read it in your book.
Yeah, so one quick thing before we start to wrap things up. What are your final words of advice for women out there who really want to go kick some glass and create just an awesome brand?
Boy, I wish I knew then what I know now.
Yeah, like what advice would you give yourself?
Gosh. Oh, my gosh. Two things. I would be deliberate about planning my career. Patty, you talked about how you fell into this, you fell into that. Well, I had the same experience.
Yeah, I went looking for a job and I found a career I loved.
Yes, and fortunately for you.
Right.
But don't merely fall into things. Have them come by design. Really think about what you want and the steps that you need to take to get there. And those steps could take 5 years, 10 years. But on the way there, you might get there quicker just because you're moving that action and that energy, you're going forward.
Right.
So be deliberate with your careers. The next thing is be the best at that thing that you love to do so that you're the person that people think of when they think of that thing.
Yeah. Awesome.
And that is possible for all of us to achieve.
That is
absolutely
perfect advice. Perfect advice. So lastly, how do we get in touch with you and how do we find your book?
Thank you for asking. You can find my book on Amazon. It's How Smart People Sabotage Their Job Search, 10 Mistakes Executives Make and How to Fix Them. But remember, executives are people.
And you're a person, too.
Yes.
And then we can find you at Susan
at powerconnectionsinc.com.
Okay, great. And this is Patty Grimm. You can find me at pattygrimm@live.com, PATTIEGRIMM@LIVE.com. You can also call me on my cell, which is 425-289-6619. I do want to remind the women of our audience that we are having our second annual Women's Business Forum for Executive Next Practices on November 2nd. You definitely want to be there. We have an awesome lineup, and you can find information on www.enp, that's E as in Edward, N as in Nancy, P as in Patty, institute.com/events, and you'll find this awesome event. We hope to see you there. And everybody, you go out there and have a kickin' day and find your brand and be your brand.
Wonderful. Thank you, Patty.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Women Kicking Glass, the only radio show on OC Talk Radio dedicated to empowering women to be the best they can be. Listen each week or download the podcast at patty.grimm.podbean.com. To reach out to Patty to schedule a speech webinar or to learn more about her leadership and team training, contact Patty at pattygrimm@live.com. For more information about her company and her books, have a kicking day.